Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Laurie Gagan, and I am the founder of StopSprayingGlyphosate.com. I'm honored today to introduce you to a few friends that I met last year at the Two Red Pill event. Bryan Jones and Doug Fletcher are passionate about growing. They're passionate about keeping the chemicals out of the soil and what you're planting. So today we are going to interview them on their compost, their soil that they've been developing for decades. So Bryan Jones and Doug Fletcher, Flickaseed Oil, their website, sweetcornorganicsnursery.com. So why don't you introduce the both of you? Give us a little bit of bio. Maybe Bryan, you can talk about how you got started with this, and then Doug, you can talk to our viewers on what the goal is, what you're trying to accomplish.
Sure, however you want to run it.
Perfect. That's why I love live podcasts.
Well,
All right.
This, excuse me, this started.
He's Bryan Jones. I'm Doug Fletcher. This is Bryan Jones.
Oh yeah, I'm Bryan Jones.
Some call him the plant whisperer. Some call him the soil guru.
And see, what are they starting to call me now? The soil wizard.
Okay, the
soil wizard. And actually, on
wizard.
YouTube, we can find you as the soil whisperer. So there are some YouTube videos out there that I love.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and I did one in Chicago. It's on the YouTube now. The Freedom and Health Conference.
Trinity Health and Freedom. Yeah, that's on my website actually. Exitandbuildaz.com.
Okay, you can see it there.
Yeah.
But anyway, this started about 17, 18 years ago. And God talked to me in dreams, and he wanted me to build the soil for him. So I've done that. It took 7 years to build the yeast pile, and it's completely different from what I do now. But it was the essential part of making the soil. Everything that I know now is all hindsight. God never reveals to me as I'm in the middle of doing something. I always get the message after it's completed. So that's how it started through these dreams. I actually met a lady 18 years ago from the Ukraine. She lived right on the border of Russia and the Ukraine, and she was the one that reminded me about the mycelium. And when I was a little kid, I was, 6 to 8 years old, my grandmother would have me put the seeds in my mouth, and I'd plant them in the soil. And I remember I said to her, "Grandma, why are we doing this? Why can't we just use the seed right into the soil?" And she said, "I don't know. This is the way my mother did it. This is the way we're going to do it." But when I was your age, I asked my mother the same question. And she said, "I don't know. This is the way my mother did it. This is the way we're going to do this." So this has all happened through tradition, through just the way people did things back in the day. Now, I travel a lot and I talk to people all over the world now. And after some of these events, sometimes we'll go to dinner, or I have an opportunity to talk to people one-on-one. And when I found out pre-1930, this tradition of putting your DNA on the seed was commonplace. This is how all people did it. And I remember I got these series of dreams about, in the Bible, it says the birds want nothing. All of their needs are taken care of. And then what does it say? Right after it says, "And God loves you even more." Well, this is the mycelium that's in the soil. It will actually respond to human DNA. So what I do is I teach people, not only do you want to use the soil to feed your body, it also will remove the veil that's over your pineal gland. And this is the how you communicate with God. So it's not only going to heal your body physically, it's also going to heal you spiritually, because this is the way God had me made this. And he wants me to share this with the world now. So what you do, These doctors in Chicago taught me this. In your urine, you have what they call human stem cells. It's a complete marker of your body and what's going on in your body. And what happens is the mycelium will register your DNA and actually change the DNA of the plant that you're going to consume for your particular body. It's God's medicine. It's God's nourishment to us. And the chemicals in the 1930s, the first thing it does, see, we thought it was the mycelium it destroyed, or the humate that it destroyed first. It actually will vaporize it. But in actuality, what it does is kills the mycelium. It kills God's gift to his people. So what I've done is created a compost that's 100 to 100,000 times the mycelium is that much more available. The other thing that makes our soil different from any other mycelium strain product, see, all compost has mycelium, all soil has mycelium. But what's different is this is made from carbon. And there's something magical about developing strains from a pure carbon source. And what I feel, I don't know this scientifically, but I feel that these strains are specific to human DNA. And as a matter of fact, some of my soil has been compared to the Predatera soil down in South America. You know, they're discovering that all these ancient cities were all over South America, down there where the Aztecs were. And they're discovering this with this LiDAR. They have a way that they can see through the jungle now. And they couldn't figure it out, but it's the soil, the terra preta soil, which means black soil. And this black soil comes from carbon. I believe those shamans got the same dreams that God has given me to make this soil. And now those people, they don't even know what happened, where they're at today. But I see some parallels going on with what's going on in the world today than perhaps it was, thousands of years ago with that civilization, So anyway, I've talked a lot. I don't know if you want to backtrack and ask me some specific questions.
Well, I have to say it's a very beautiful explanation. And Doug, I have to say what an amazing journey for you to be able to be being educated by Bryan. So how long have you been making this compost? How many years, how many decades?
It's this year. See, I don't calculate the age of my soil by time, by calendar time. When it blooms, when the mycelium blooms, it becomes 1 year older. So it will bloom sometime between September and all the way to the end of December, depending on weather conditions, moisture, temperature, different things. So it happened in October this year. So this year, your soil that you purchased is now 17 years old. The mycelium is bloomed one more time. So not only are we bringing a nutrient dense material to the gardens, we're also bringing that time along with it. So when people put the soil into their garden, it's actually like they're just putting in 17 years of work into that soil. The other thing it does,
you won't find that anywhere else.
No.
Let me say that.
No, and let me explain some other good things about this soil. It will actually pull the nitrogen from the air and feed your plants. This soil is alive. It's got earthworms in it, and it's got all 27 of the beneficial microbes, all 8 of the mycorrhizae families. And this soil will live forever as long as you rotate crops across the soil. You cannot monocrop in this soil and it'll live forever. You'll burn it out. So this is the other thing I do when I do talks or meet with people, is show them how to rotate crops. You want to run your legumes back and forth across so it will live forever. And then that time increases. So the sooner you put it in, that time is going to just keep running with your soil. So in other words, people that bought soil 10 years ago from me, if you look at their garden now under a microscope, it'll appear to be a 17-year-old living organism that's there. Now, having said that, what's really cool about how this all works is that once you get that soil in your garden, your whole garden becomes one organism now. And the other thing mycelium does, its whole job, it has a symbiotic relationship between the plant and the soil itself. We're part of that when we put our DNA in there. But what it does, let's say you have a carrot on this side of your plot that's suffering from a deficiency of some kind. The mycelium will know this, and the other carrots will know this, and they will send nutrients through the web to that particular carrot. And everything grows equally in your garden. All your carrots will come up the same height. All your corn will come up the same height. All your cabbage will be the same size. It's really remarkable when you have good, healthy, living soil, what God has given us.
And it's interesting that you say that, because if you look back at, the 1920s, 1930s, the Green Revolution, and, all these companies were coming out with the fertilizer. And then what ended up happening is that the farmers weren't swapping out, as you were explaining, and changing what they were growing. And then everything became a dust bowl, especially in the Midwest, which is where I came from. So then it created this big, huge dust bowl where they couldn't grow anything. And you look at a carrot back probably when my great grandmother was growing them, they had definitely much more nutrients. The nutrient density was much better back then. And a carrot is not like a carrot like it is now. There's not a lot of nutrients. And, families want to think that, listen, I'm eating some carrots and I'm giving my family some really good vegetables, but they really honestly don't even know that if they're eating on the conventional side and the poison that they're using, like glyphosate, which is the active ingredient in Roundup, is poisoning the food, which is actually poisoning the body. So really what you're saying is you've taken it back to what God has given us.
Yeah.
So I love that. Would you say that you got started because of the conversation that you had with your mother and that conversation that she had with her mother?
Really what it was, when I met this lady from Ukraine about 18 years ago, it triggered all these memories. And then it really makes sense to me now. My grandmother lived to be 100 years, 101, I believe.
Wow.
And on her deathbed, you see, I was raised as a German on her side of the family. In actuality, she was a Jew. And she was, when she was 14, is when the Nazis were coming into Russia. Well, she had an opportunity to leave, and she went to Canada, then went to South Dakota, and she changed her religion to Catholic. And she told everybody she was from Germany. In actuality, she was a Jew from Russia. This is how scared this woman was, this little girl, 14 years old. And so my mother, everybody, we were raised with the understanding we were German, and actually we were Jewish. Now, what's interesting, the seed in the mouth and all this, the lady from Ukraine, she's convinced that my grandmother came from that very village in Ukraine, Russia area. So, she's passed on now, so I can't really track. I guess you could through some DNA stuff.
It's weird. That gets
But
weird. We
anyway,
start giving
I
our
just-
DNA out.
I get chilled
I'm
when I
not doing
think
that,
about.
Brian. We're not doing that.
No,
We're not doing
no,
that.
but-
You're at Sweet
But
Florida.
what I'm saying is, I really think that my grandmother somehow is connected with this lady from the Ukraine.
We are, my
I
sweetie.
mean,
we are
family,
connected.
you know, somehow. So anyway, so my mission now is to let people know, look, man, that God has given us all this beautiful stuff, all these wonderful seeds. You don't buy GMO. I mean, that's satanic stuff, and they're changing gene barriers. They're breaking God's laws by
Agreed.
mixing animal DNA with plant DNA. This is not right.
Agreed. And for all of you who don't know what GMO is genetically modified organisms,
Right.
meaning that they're changing the DNA of the seed, which is what Bryan is talking about.
Yeah.
So
Not normal.
It's not from God.
It's okay to do hybrids of the same species. This is why, potatoes were this big 100 years ago. Now we have potatoes this big, but GMO potatoes that grow like footballs. I mean, there's you got to keep it within God's. You do not cross gene barriers. He put these barriers to protect us, not to prohibit us from something. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should.
I agree.
Science has got to a point where they can darn near do anything, but it's not right when you start messing with God's genes, with the DNA of the planet. You do not do that.
I agree with you, Bryan, on that. So let me ask you the next question. And I know you can't tell me everything in it because obviously, you're protecting your years and years of work, but what are some of the differences that you're seeing with clients around the US who are using your compost? Is the taste better? Is the coloring of the produce being grown better? Are they larger because of the nutrients that are being delivered to these plants?
Well, we see across the board everything's better. I had a farmer last year that put 6 super sacks on 20 acres on an oat field. Well, the lady come in with her combine and it bound her combine up. It broke her $1 million machine. Wow. She calls my farmer buddy and says, listen, I'm not mad. I know how to fix it. She had to go in there and clean it all out. Well, the oats grew 3.5 feet tall. And she goes, I don't remember. She goes to Jason. She said, listen, what did you put on that field? And can I get some? And of course, we're going to get her some. But like on vineyards, we'll go into an old vineyard and put 1 super sack per acre just on the growing area, underneath the root system of the grapes. We'll double their crop in 1 year. The first year you put it on. We're tripling vegetable crops across the board. And people, what I found out? I used to sell tomatoes up here at the farmer's market. I was getting $4 a pound for them. I was feeling, that's pretty good money. Well, this 1 year, I put a bunch of flick in there of the soil. And then I put another product called Mega Mater on the tomatoes. All my tomatoes, people won't pay you $20 per tomato. All my tomatoes were 5 and 6 pounds.
Wow.
They were huge.
When I originally saw the soil, it looks like Garden of Eden stuff that it grows.
But you know what? I had to go down to $1 a pound on it. And they still were complaining. And I give them a piece of the tomato to try. They'd buy the whole lug. I mean, people were buying $50, $60, $70 worth of tomatoes just from tasting 1 tomato. Most people don't even realize what vegetables are supposed to taste like. We really don't. If you're only comparing it to what you eat in a restaurant or fast food or even at Safeway, Piggly Wiggly's, any of these modern supermarkets, you have no idea what food's supposed to taste like or look like even.
Well, it's the difference between your your own eggs that you have, and you know what you're feeding your chickens, opposed to some store-bought eggs that could be sitting on the shelves for, who knows how long.
Yeah.
He literally grows the worms, into the live soil. So we know the names of the worms that go into the food that people are eating. This is what we call source validation.
Yeah. Yeah, I do all of that.
We know our soil, we know our seeds. So nutrient dense soil, nutrient dense food, enhances cognitive function and makes brain.
You know what? A lot of people write me or reach out to me, and they already have organic gardens, and they're doing great and everything. And they ask me, should they still use some of my soil in there? And of course, I tell them yes, because now you have the DNA value there, where most mycelium or gardens come from animal waste compost, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's like a single instrument, and where I bring you a symphony. You know what I mean? It's all the musical instruments are in the symphony. Where if you're just doing just a nitrogen based animal waste compost, you only get one aspect of what our bodies need. And when you have compost that's over 7 years old, ours happen to be 17 years old, you have what they call a nano effect on the nutrient levels, where the plant can absolutely take this nutrient in like intravenously. See, the mycelium wraps around the root of your plant, and it will supply the plant its nutrients and its moisture. If you're going into a drought, this mycelium will protect your plant against drought also. So, oh, I lost my train of thought. I was trying to make a point there with something she said. I can't think of it now. It'll come back to me though.
Okay. All right. So it sounds like pretty much everybody should be using your compost anyway. But so Doug,
yeah, but you can use less. Listen, if you've been organic, then you're going to be rewarded because you don't need as much now. If you put Miracle-Gro on your garden one time, you're going to have to use 3 inches of the soil to restore it. If you've been organic, 1 inch will give you the same benefits as the person now that has to put 3 inches on. So,
well, that's good to know, because I'm going to be taking 2 acres of our property here where you both were, and it's never been sprayed with chemicals. So it'll be good to know, because all I have to do is on the 2 acres, just do the 1 inch. So it will save a little bit of money, make it more cost effective, and still get the benefit.
It really depends on the crop you're going to grow on that acreage. If you're going to do like a grain crop, like an oats or barley or rye or something like that, then it would be 1 super sack would do those 2 acres, no problem.
Okay.
If you're going to grow vegetables on there, you may consider putting more on.
Okay, that's good to know. I didn't know about the super sacks. I know I bought a bunch of bags of the compost the last time that you came out.
Yeah, if you can buy the super sack, the soil actually is almost half price that way.
Okay.
You don't have all the bagging and all the other components sorry, we just said
that's okay.
My dog.
That's okay.
I lost my train of thought.
That's okay.
Super sacks is the way to go when we deal with farms. That's the way to sell it. It's way cheaper. You don't have all this plastic bags and all this stuff. And then I can sell it cheaper that way too.
Right.
And make much on it than I would on the little stuff.
Yeah. Well, we're hoping to have you out for an event this summer. Doug, how long have you been working with Bryan?
Yeah, to tell them how we met. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, tell us how you met.
2015. So here we are 8 years later.
Yeah.
I'm from Northern California. I would say in 2009, I was out here with a bunch of military expats, really wanting to grow food for what they were calling an upcoming food famine. Remember, this is actually 2012, and I was out in this area and some things happened with those guys and everything. And I kind of needed to sort of reevaluate. I was turning 40 years old and I had some things to do with my family and everything. I went back and I couldn't help this. I got a recurring dream over and over and over. And it was telling me to go back. This was, I mean, I didn't much speak this language, and I don't like to get too woo woo and too out there, but this was a clear voice that I had to, understand was source, creator, God, telling me to go back to Arizona to where I had been before, where I knew the Coconino Aquifer, which means the eye of God, was. So I said yes. I went out there. Not long after I'm driving, I had to relieve myself for about 45 minutes. This plays into this story. I stop, I look up and I see the bull market, an organic market, and I'm in the middle of nowhere. Well, I'm just starting to understand source validation, GMOs, Monsanto, all the stuff that our food is not right. I'm just learning this and how, we need to get back to growing and source validation and everything else. So I cross over this bridge and I get there, and it's a big giant golf course. An hour and a half later, up comes a guy in a flatbed truck, with the big ZZ Top beard. And he stops, and I look at the soil, these clear plastic bags, and I say, I see the peat moss and the perlite there. And he gets out, he goes, it's a little more than that. And it takes a hit off this corncob pipe, and I had been gifted the same exact pipe by a military light colonel. And I kind of looked and I thought, oh, this is weird. He takes off the sunglasses, and we don't look exactly alike, but we can be related. And I put down, he says, come here. And I put down my 3.84 pound teacup Chihuahua, and I take a look, and he draws me over, and I look over his dash, and he's got the same exact dog,
Oh,
And in this recurring dream that I had, I show up to the place I was told to go. I find the aquifer I thought was 45 minutes down the street, and up comes this guy. Neither of us have been to this place ever before, and he starts telling me about this soil. He says IAS Labs in Phoenix says it's the best soil in the world. And, I'm like, I'm listening, but, the proof's in the pudding. So it wasn't long after he and I met that I went down to IAS Labs, and I kind of poked around, and it's an impartial lab that tests for 180 countries. There's something like 190. 10 of them probably don't test their soil. They're small. And he says, you might want to look at this test. And I looked at that specific test, and it said flick a seed soil. And you might want to look over here. Remember, he's an impartial lab. You might want to look over here, and it said flick a seed soil. You might want, and that kept going 4 different times. And then he goes, you might want to see this. And I had spied this, and Bryan had told me this. He had actually purchased a pallet, 2 pallets of the flick-a-seed soil for his own raised beds, because it ranked #1 out of the entire world and of all, as the #1 soil in the world.
They bought it over $11,000.
Well, and people give them free. They want them to promote their stuff so badly, they'll give them free soil. They purchased Bryan's soil. That's a true story.
wow.
Because I had to know, because I'm being from Northern California, there's a major
this is
growing
a lab,
community.
and they test for chemical damage and all this, and they're trying to show these people you don't have to use the stuff if you go organic. So they're really good people, the people that own the lab. They're trying to help farmers convert back over.
Let's put it this way: Robert Scott Bellett's in his yard. Rashid Battar bought 207 bags. I've seen what he's done with it just a few months ago. It's all, Judy Mikovits is interested in working with us. We're still working that out. So the word is getting out there that Bryan Jones and Flick-a-Seed soil is the best on the block.
Well, I definitely believe when we're doing God's work that he prepares the way and provides the way.
Yeah.
So that's a really cool way how you both met. Is there anything that when people are thinking about going in your direction with your compost and or your seeds, is there anything that you recommend that they do to prepare their soil if it has been chemically treated by Roundup, glyphosate, 2,4-D, all those chemicals that make our bodies sick?
That's a great question. And I get asked that all the time. And that's a cool thing. I met Dennis Yellowhorse about 20 years ago. He owns a Humate mine, the Humate Corporation. It's a $50 billion deal. In fact, I cured him. He had cancer. We
Go easy, go easy.
Yeah, I have to go easy with this.
We helped him. He had a
Yeah,
stage
yeah.
X,
But
and
anyway,
we helped him out. Now he's got
he used
nothing.
the
It's a
soil, and
miracle.
now he's
Power of
free.
prayer.
Yeah, power of prayer.
Yeah.
But the soil
It didn't
actually
cure anything.
The soil
We helped.
didn't cure it, but it did. But anyway, God did the cure.
That's it.
Yeah. So anyway, the humate. See, I wouldn't have to put humate in on organic soil or soilless mix, but when I discovered 20 years ago, I would convert people. Oh yeah, we don't want to use chemical, and then the stuff wasn't working. And that's when I found out about how important it is to have humate in the soil. If you use chemicals in your soil, two things have happened. You kill the mycelium and you remove the humate. Both of those are in my soil. So this is what I say: if you use chemicals, you have to go with the 3 inches, because the ratio of the humate will be there to restore that soil. You see, and it'll actually make it better than it ever was.
Okay.
As far as it'll clean it up. The glyphosate, the miracle grows, the all the weed killers and pre-emergence and all this stuff will get neutralized with the microbes.
Does that account for farmers who may have been like using Roundup, say, for 20 plus years, 3 inches?
Oh yeah. Yeah, God wants to restore land that man has damaged. If we just did nothing to the land, it would heal itself. But we don't have that kind of time, so we can do it immediately, with the soil, with enough of it on there, to mitigate all of that. Where you're not going to be consuming that poison no longer. The web will protect us from that. It could even have traces of it still in there, but it won't enter the food supply, and it will neutralize with time.
And I think that there are so many people in the world that I live in where I'm educating on toxins and heavy metals, these herbicides and pesticides that people are even using just in a small little garden or in their grass because they don't like the dandelions, and then their kids and their animals are playing in that grass. They don't.
Great plant.
Yeah, they don't really realize that they're absorbing these chemicals. And then we take a look at the world where we live in, and a 300% increase alone just in ADD in the kids. And the amount of parents, and maybe it's just because they don't have time to do the research, that they're not relating the chemicals, the herbicides, the pesticides, not only in the food, but in the grass that they're playing. And since there's so many people who don't know that,
the kids are playing the recess in the schools, it's in the parks.
Yeah, it's horrible.
The family might be all organic. Their kids, where are they going to go? And they run around that stuff barefoot.
Right, exactly. And then
to see this happen.
And then they take their child to a pediatrician or a conventional medicine doctor, maybe who hasn't been sick themselves, who believes that medication is the answer to every illness, which we know truly it's not. But they walk away with some type of prescription and a weaker immune system, and their doctor has never even educated them on root cause. Root cause comes from the soil. We're eating, on those who don't know anything about it, we're eating the food. Our brains consume 33% of all of the calories, but 100% of all the chemicals and toxins, yet doctors fail to educate parents on root cause gut and root cause soil. Would you agree? Would you both agree with that statement?
Oh, absolutely. It's so hypocritical. It's so, we got to get back to basics. We cannot have drug companies teaching doctors how to heal people, and we can't have chemical companies teaching our farmers how to grow food. It's ridiculous. it's absurd, really.
I
Uh,
agree.
it's like your body is deficient of a pill. I mean, it's crazy.
Well, we all know
I
that God
didn't
did
know
not
that.
create Prozac. So we
It's
can kind of
crazy.
rule that out right off the bat.
Well, listen, you get your DNA in the soil, and urine is the best way to do it. Pee in a bucket, mix it with 10 to 1 with water, pour it in there, grow your food. When you rotate your crop and you plant another one, retreat it with your urine. Now, you can do it with hair, you can put the seeds in your mouth, but these doctors taught me about it's called human stem cells. They're in your urine. And it's like looking at something on a big screen TV or looking at something under a microscope. It makes it easier for the mycelium to recognize your body's deficiencies. And it will work immediately on growing you a vegetable that's going to heal you. So you can sleep at night. You don't have to take a pill. You need to eat a salad and pray and try to seek and do God's will every day. Help your neighbor. There's all kinds of stuff we can do to benefit ourselves physically and spiritually just by doing the right things.
But food is medicine, and medicine is
medicine.
food. So we are of the Hippocrates,
Yeah.
concept and terrain theorists.
I love it. I love everything that you both have talked about. So what would you say if you could tell our viewers one thing as a takeaway from our talk today? What would that one thing be that you would want them to walk away with?
Okay, what I would have them do, if they're an organic farmer, you've got mycelium already in your garden. It's maybe not as potent or powerful as the stuff we make, but please get your family's DNA in that soil. It's the best thing you can do at growing good, healthy food.
I agree with that. What do they say? The kids that really play in the dirt are the kids that have stronger immune systems.
There you go.
So for our viewers, how do they get a hold of you? Where do they go to start doing the research? I know that we're trying to get you out here to Utah to do an event, but how do they get a hold of you?
Well, they could call me. They could go to sweetcornorganicnursery.com. My phone number is on there. And they can text me is probably the best way to do it. I get real busy at times and I can't answer the phone. So if you text me, I will call you back. I do always follow up on phone calls and stuff.
Okay.
We have some pictures of different events and different frontline doctors that are using our stuff on, www.exitandbuildaz.com. It's got me and Bryan with, some cool people. Since you're in Utah, Robert Scott Bell's using our stuff. He's a really good friend of ours.
Yeah.
And we'd love to get up to you guys. And
I've got it here. You helped me last
He's very
year
much
get
involved with what we do.
Yep, and you helped me get it into my garden last year. So I'm looking forward to the opportunity this spring to start planting.
We had a ball doing your house, and we have a great video. I don't know if you're aware of this. Video of us at your house with you and your husband.
Yep.
We had an awesome time with you guys.
Yeah. Well, I thank you both from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for having this talk with me. We'll get the word out. We'll spread it around, and I'll be in touch. I've got some exciting things coming up here in Utah, and we could take that offline. But again, thank you both. And I pray that God continues to guide your journey. And thank you for sharing with me today.
Thank you.
Ciao, guys.
God bless you.
Ciao, ciao.
God bless you.
And you. All right. That was